Hello everyone and welcome to today's segment of Roundtable. I'm your host Lee Martin and I am fortunate enough to be joined by the DFS Bachelor Kyle and the League of Legends evangelist himself, Michael. We're going to be discussing how to bet League of Legends today. So welcome guys. How are you guys doing today?
Doing absolutely fantastic. It's great to be here with Lee. I love doing shows with Lee. And it's good to see my boy Mike on a different platform. Person who knows more about League of Legends than anybody that I know. So it really is a pleasure. I'm glad to be here with you guys.
Some people would say more than anyone. Some people would say that. Not me. I wouldn't say that about myself. But other people, they would consider saying it out loud.
Awesome. Well, we had an esports segment a couple weeks ago, and Kyle was amazingly enough to join us for that. So everyone that has not seen that segment, Kyle, just briefly explain to us how you got into betting League of Legends.
Sure. Before March 12th, before Rudy Gobert decided to touch every wall in the locker room and every microphone at the table, I had very, very little exposure to esports. And then once that happened, I'm fortunate enough to have a large group of people that enjoy watching shows that kind of look to me for content. Sometimes it's a little comedy relief and Jameson recommendations in their coffee. And so I needed to give them something. So I looked around the landscape. And League of Legends was just popping off. The odds were inefficient in the markets. The prize pools for daily fantasy were through the roof. So I said, it's time to hit the books and it's time to start learning. And met Mike shortly after that. And the rest is history.
Michael, I can ask you the same question. How did you get into betting League of Legends? Just give us a background of yourself and the esports industry.
Sure. So first, what Kyle was saying is, it's kind of been a whirlwind romance. I posted a video online about League of Legends, and he was like, "Hey man, that was really good. You want to talk about it on my show?" I'm like, "Of course, let's do that." So then I started doing that. I started betting on esports probably 5 years ago. I've been betting my whole life. I learned how to play cards and gamble with my grandfather when I was 5. And we'd play for change, and I would just keep the change that I won. So I always had money for soda and stuff like that. And then started playing video games. Played video games until today. I've been playing League for 10 years, and I've been playing it at a competitive level. So then it just naturally turned into betting on it once the lines came available to the public.
And Michael, why do you prefer to bet League of Legends over? Because why are you the League of Legends evangelist on your Twitter page?
Well, I'm the League of Legends evangelist because I love League of Legends very much, and I want everyone to enjoy League of Legends as much as I do. It's interesting because League of Legends is the most popular game in the world right now, I think. Period. Any sport, any game, I think it's the most popular game in the world. It's just the gambling industry hasn't gotten a huge chunk of that market because people who play video games when they're in their adolescence don't typically also pay attention to betting or traditional sports. But the reason why I'm kind of really heavy on trying to get other people involved in it is because I see an edge for myself, and I can translate that edge to viewers because just my familiarity with the game. So the reason I prefer to bet on League of Legends is because of that perceived edge that I have, which has realized itself over time. I win a decent amount. So it's not some kind of fantasy that I have in my brain that I know what I'm talking about, which is a relief because there are some fantasies in my brain that I don't want to see the light of day.
Okay. Well, to piggyback on all of that, what is your process of analysis when approaching what teams or players to bet on?
So I would say that the first thing that I always do, and I think it's just the honest way of talking about it, is that I let my intuition kind of point me in the direction that I think what team I like. So there are a few ways to do it. So first, before the season even starts, I'll take a look at the entire schedule and I'll do the equivalent of look ahead lines. I'll just pick every single game and then put a win rate on it. And then when they release the schedule or they release the odds every week, then I'll just compare them to see if I have an actual edge. And a lot of the time you'll see public perception swing heavily from team to team throughout the season. So it's good to have that baseline kind of number to refer back to. I mean, that's basically it. I'm not big on like the actual statistics behind it because I know how different every individual game is based on champion select into the pick ban phase. But I know Kyle has a different approach.
Yep, and I was just going to ask Kyle, what is your process of analysis when approaching how to bet League of Legends?
Sure, and it is the direct opposite of Mike's, and that could be for a couple of reasons. One, of course I am not as experienced with League of Legends. I haven't played it or been involved with it as long. I'm a sports bettor, I'm a sports guy, and I'm a stats and analytics guy. So that's the first thing that I do. I go across and I find which underdog has the most value. Do they have a reasonable expectation of return on that value? And then I start breaking down the analytics, the stats, finding times when they were an underdog and they won, times when they lost. And it's not going to be 100% effective that way. But when I do that, it becomes profitable because even if it's not getting into all the nuances of drafting the players, drafting the games, etc., when I have enough information and there are sites out there that give great analytics and information, you are going, a broken clock is right twice a day, they always say. You are going to be correct, about 50% of the time, which is all I need when I'm betting the underdog. So breaking down the stats and the analytics is important for me. And it's a little bit different than Mike's, but it still turns into a profitable way to play for me.
Right.
Yeah. So, but just before we move on from that, I would say I pay a ton of attention to the statistics and stuff like that. It's just they're not really like the determining value for me. Like they're a starting point, and I like to pick over or under based on other factors. So I think, which I think that like this would be shown in the past is that Kyle is better at following the trend of what's happening within a patch, but every time there's like a change in the game, I'm faster to adapt because I understand what changed, why it changed, and how it affects everything. So in the beginning of a season, when the patch changes, when teams from different regions play against each other, that's where I have a pretty big edge. And I just realized that like literally 2 seconds ago, because whenever this patch changes, like in the past couple of weeks, the patch changed and it's a jungler meta now. And I've just been on fire. So I think we just learned something.
That's
There we go.
awesome. Well, Kyle, you mentioned you're a huge stats and numbers guy. So where do you go to find the best analytics when breaking down a team or player?
Sure. There's a great website. It's called lol.gg, and it has every team, every game they played for the split, their kills per minute, their deaths per minute, how much gold differential they have at the 15-minute mark, the 5-minute mark. You can break down the individual players. Also, what's important too is which players played and against which teams. A lot of these teams have substitutes and different roster things, and it's hard to get some of that information. That site really breaks it all down for you. It's been my go-to. I have, and it's possibly Mike might know of another one, or maybe even a better one, but I have yet to go look for a stat on that site and not find it. Or a team and not find it. They have the tertiary leagues, secondary leagues, the build up, the relegation leagues, if you want to use a soccer term. So that's a great site. And then I go, to YouTube, Twitch, and I look up the games. A lot of these leagues live broadcast their games on Twitch or on YouTube. So you can kind of watch what a team does. Hey, how do they react when they're behind? How do they react when they're ahead? What type of game style do they have compared to the other team? So between that website and using my own visual eyes, those are the two places I really go to start breaking everything down.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, Michael, I know on Twitter you are at League of Items, and I was watching one of your videos and you said that you love items like gold, etc., like that. So do you want to further elaborate on that as to why you think items are more valuable in the game?
Sure. So it's somewhat controversial, specifically like right now, because there's a lot of conversations going on about why North America can't compete on an international level, or at least hasn't competed on an international level. And I will be posting a video on this, but just as a sneak peek, I think a lot of it has to do with the team's actual understanding of the game, because everyone seems to forget, like, this game was created by human beings for human beings to play. There are people out there who develop video games that set this up for a specific way for a reason. So items allow your champion to become more strong as the game goes on. And then there's differences between those items. Some items are really good 10 minutes into the game. Some items are really good 30 minutes into the game. And then you need to figure out like what combination of items is the best for my team, which one's going to make my team have a better chance of winning. And this is something that most people just don't pay attention to in general. And I realized probably 3 years ago when I was doing some reviews about the World Championship, and I kept looking at T1, and there were a few games where SKT T1, like the most popular team in Korea, now they're just called T1. But I realized that they made a couple of comebacks, and I looked at the team fights that they won to make them like realize that comeback. And every single time they had more efficient item choices. So even though the other team had 2,000 more gold, which is typically like the threshold for what you need to win the game, even though they were at a gold deficiency, they were able to utilize the economy aspect of League of Legends to outperform how much gold they've earned in the game. So just by being a little bit different and thinking about it, these teams can create an advantage for themselves. But North America doesn't even have that foundational understanding, or at least doesn't know how to apply it to the game, which is both of those options are very bad. Both of those reasons are reasons why you're not going to beat international teams.
All right. And Kyle, do you have any valuable aspects that you look for when betting League of Legends? Or is it quite similar to Michael's?
Well, a lot of it is similar to Michael. A lot, especially with League of Legends, as I've been getting into it, a lot of my energy has been focused on the daily fantasy side of it, DraftKings and FanDuel. So when I start to look at them, I don't give a damn what items they have, what this, what that. I want to know, are they going out there and are they killing the other opponent? Because I want fantasy points. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And there can be a direct correlation between being a high-scoring fantasy team and being a better team. You can use that with a lot of sports. For example, in the NFL, if a team gives up a ton of fantasy points to wide receivers, you have a relatively good idea that they're not a very good secondary. And so I kind of use that sort of correlation when I'm doing League of Legends. I want kills. I want attacks. I want aggressive teams. Mike talked about the certain items that become more powerful at the 10-minute mark, the 20-minute mark, 30-minute mark. I'm not super interested in those teams that want to wait till the end, those sort of scaling teams. I want aggressive, to the point, give me those fantasy points. Tied for first yesterday. That's what I'm looking to do every single day. So those are the first things that I look at. Of course, the items are important because it makes your players more powerful, but it's not something that I don't necessarily go down that rabbit hole because I don't understand it as much. And it's not something that I'm really focused on from a daily fantasy perspective.
All right.
And I think that's smart because there's no way that we can know what team is going to pick which champions and which items within a game. So what Kyle's talking about is the teams that are the easiest to predict for DraftKings performance are the ones who are winning. So he likes teams that win and score a lot of points. I can make the argument that items will help you win a game, but it's not going to change your fundamental play style. So if you're a team like Cloud9 or G2, which are two of the better Western teams, they can go out there and snowball a game pretty fast. So they might be making inefficient item choices, but at the points in the game where they need to be strong to win the game, they're stronger than the opposing team. And they just don't give the other teams the option of coming back in the game. So I think that there is a place to have good item analysis and stuff like that. And you can kind of try to guess what champions are going to be picked. But a lot of the time, Kyle's approach is going to be more right on for DFS.
Okay, very interesting. So, Michael, do you prefer to bet on regional tournaments or big main events, and why?
Well, I think that I don't really prefer any specific leagues. I pay pretty good attention to most of them. I'm more into the timing of when I'm making my bets and if I have an edge or not. So, I think in the beginning of the season I have a big edge. And at international tournaments, I have a big edge. Picking underdogs, I have an edge. It doesn't really matter where the tournament is. If I have an edge, I'm going to bet on it. So I think in terms of where do I find those edges most often, just because of how it plays out, I think in the leagues where the fan bases are the most hive-mindy, where they all kind of agree with each other, wherever the announcers, if you're listening to a game and the announcers are slamming one side and saying the other team is the best team in the world, bet against them the next week because the markets are going to be off horribly, because the people that have these jobs, like if you think that traditional sports broadcasters are bad, you have to listen to some of these announcers for League of Legends. They're the worst. Most of them are the worst. There are some really, really good ones that are out there, but a lot of these people have no idea what they're talking about. They don't play the game at a high level. They don't understand the game at a high level. They just know that they need to look in the camera, scream really loud, and that's all you have to do. If you want a good time watching League of Legends, watch the Brazilian match. If you don't speak Portuguese, doesn't matter. This guy will scream at the top of his lungs every time anything happens. It's amazing. His first blood call, it will make you feel alive.
Wonderful. I might have to check that out. Now, Kyle, I'll ask you the same question. Do you prefer regional tournaments or big main events?
So I do like them both. I prefer the regional type sessions like the LPL, the LCK, because you start to get a good analysis of what these teams are going to do against each other. For the international tournaments early on, when they're just best of ones, one game, and that's it, those aren't my favorite. I like a little bit more information, and I prefer to be able to bet. And if an underdog in a best of 3 is plus 1.5, they don't have to win the match. They just have to win one game. So I like giving them the opportunity to say, hey, we lost. Maybe they lose the first game and they lose it bad. So they can make an adjustment, correct what they're doing, win game 2. That's all I need them to do. So when I'm playing those international type tournaments where teams from other regions are playing against each other, like the EU Masters we just had recently, for me, I'm more comfortable waiting until the knockout stages and beyond, when it's best of 3, best of 5. I can get more of a feel for the teams. I know Mike loves the 1-0s. For me personally, that's how I approach it. So I guess I would prefer the regional competitions overall, but the international competitions I like a whole lot more once that beginning stage of the 1-0s fade away.
Very nice. So Kyle, I'll ask you this question. So where do you go to find the best odds on when you're betting League of Legends? Like, what books do you usually go to?
That's a great question. And there's a few of them that I use. And if you remember the video that we did a couple weeks ago with Adam, he talked about this, how having a spread out portfolio of sports books in esports betting is very important. And by the way, if you're betting on other esports, CSGO, Dota 2, be sure to check out Adam's articles at sportsbookreview.com. I am a company man. I wish we could play the ESPN music there for that. But he is correct. The markets are very inefficient. So a lot of different books have a lot of different numbers. And so I don't like to just trap myself with one site and go with those odds, because I might find a team that I like with better odds on another site. So sites like BetOnline AG, they do a terrific job. They have a nice bonus, 1,000. Always looking for those bonuses, always looking for low minimums, high maximums. You know, you got to fit it into your budget, and every site is different. Sports Betting AG is very good. Bovada has good esports. BetDSI, which I know Mike will talk about, is another one that I really like. MyBookie has good esports. So I like to have a spread out portfolio for esports to give myself the best chance at finding the best odds for the games that I like.
Awesome. And then same question for you, Michael. Do you have a particular book that you go to for League of Legends odds?
Yeah, I just use BetDSI really. I know that there is additional value in going to different sports books, but I don't trust a lot of sports books that are out there. So that's just probably a personal problem that I need to get over. But once DraftKings and FanDuel start releasing lines for everything, I think that I'll definitely be playing on those books. And then when whoever releases live betting first, you're gonna lose a lot of money to me. So just let me know, anybody out there, if you see a book offering live lines on stuff, or like you can still bet after the champions are locked in, I will spend a lot of money on those websites. So just send me a tweet or something like that and let me know, and I'll make everybody money.
All right, awesome.
Just to touch on that real quickly too, it's important when you're picking your sports book to definitely research the sports book. Make sure that they have a good reputation. Make sure that they accept the form of payment that you can use. A lot of these places, they'll ask for weird types of verification. They won't let you deposit a certain way. They want you to send money in a different way. It's very important to be comfortable. Make sure they have a good reputation. Make sure that if you win, you're actually going to be paid back. It's very, very important when choosing a sports book, when doing any type of esports or sports betting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can check out and find out all the best top sports books at sportsbookreview.com. All right. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. So thank you guys so much for your time and for dropping some knowledge. If you aren't yet, Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you can receive all upcoming new content updates. Also, if you aren't following guys yet on Twitter, you can give Kyle a follow at DFS Bachelor and Michael a follow at League of Legends. Also, give SBR a follow on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks, as well as on Instagram at SBR Sports. I thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Until next time.